Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in to the episode of untitled.com. This is a normal hat. This is a large hat. This is a normal hat with a normal sized phone. And this is a large hat with a super large phone. This is the HTC One Max. And I've been using it for a little while now, and it's a big deal. When you hold it to your ear, people know that you're on the phone. No one's ever going to say, oh, you're on the phone, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. Because how could you not realize I was on the phone when you look at the size of this thing? It's big. It's a 5.9-inch screen. It is 1080p, so the screen is beautiful to look at. Don't go to the movies anymore, just hold this phone in front of you and it looks massive. The good thing about it, speakers are on the front, there's one on each side. Really good audio from this phone, I'll give it that. It's got a beautiful sort of aluminium body. However, the trimming around the edge is plastic, whereas the HTC One, not the Max, the One, has another silver finish on the side as well. So it's a little bit less premium than the HTC One. Now, I mentioned the screen, it is beautiful, it's nice. One thing I'll mention, however, is that when you're actually in applications, I can be in an application on my iPhone, such as Instagram, and I'm seeing about one and a half images per screen scroll. The same thing actually applies to the One Max. So while you've got the bigger screen, it just means that everything is bigger. Not necessarily that you fit more on the screen, it's just bigger. Now, obviously when you're viewing web pages, it's different because with the larger screen, you could read more text in one hit. But with images and apps, a lot of the apps aren't tailored for phones to be specifically this big, and they don't take full advantage of the screen real estate. And that's something which you just don't get. And that's kind of like, well, why would I want it? Unless your vision is really bad, then perhaps the size will help. HTC have added a fingerprint sensor on the back. Now, obviously with such a large phone, you'll unlock it with your thumb, or power it on, and it's kind of convenient that your finger is already here to swipe down on the fingerprint reader, unlock the phone, and then you're in. One of the biggest problems with that is that the fingerprint reader practically sucks, period. You have to make sure that you swipe perfectly down and at a good enough speed that it reads your fingertip. Coming from someone who uses the 5S and is used to Touch ID, it's pretty flawless. It works 90% of the time. This was sort of a 1 in 5% of the time. 1 in 5. 20% of the time. Maths. So look, it's a nice unit. If you are interested in big phones, big, I won't call it a phablet, but if you're into the big style phones, I would consider the HTC, going back, I would consider the Galaxy Note 3. The HTC One Max is quite nice, however it doesn't make sense when you're looking at a phone this big. There is no stylus, there is no simple way of using it with one hand because you can't move your thumb around the whole place. It just doesn't really work. It's too big, it's not practical, and the fingerprint sensor is not very good, and the camera is much the same as the HTC One. The performance is much the same as the HTC One. It's just a bigger screen without the real benefit of having a bigger screen, and you sort of wonder, well, why am I doing this? So if you're interested in a big phone, consider the Galaxy Note 3. If you're interested in a slightly smaller phone, then the HTC One is a very good phone, and it kind of makes this one look a little bit silly. So it is nice, the camera is fairly decent, the build quality is good, but not as good as its smaller brother. And while the display is very nice as well, things like the fingerprint sensor are just silly. The performance is great, don't get me wrong, that works really well. HTC have a decent, the OS is pretty decent with what they do with it with HTC Sense, it's not too bad. I just couldn't recommend it. One of the other issues is they've decided to make the rear door removable, which you couldn't do on the previous HTC One, which is nice because you have access to a micro SD slot, which you didn't even have on the HTC One. And that's it. You don't actually have access to the battery. So usually when you take the back case off a phone, you can then take the battery out, put a new one in if you ever carry a spare. With this one it's not, the battery is still sealed, so you're taking the whole back cover off just so you can get to a SIM card and micro SD card slot, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. They could have just made those slots on the side, it would have been a lot cleaner, and also when you do put the case back on, it never really fits perfectly back into place, but this time I tend to get it pretty good. So HTC One Max, it is bigger, not necessarily better. You kind of look silly just like I do with this hat. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next review. Let me know what you think, leave a comment, and we'll talk from there. Bye.